Welcome to SYNC-O-WICZ, hosted by the fearless Linda SYNC-O-WICZ. She's syncing you up with the latest in election integrity, from breaking headlines to critical updates you won't hear anywhere else. With Linda, it's facts first as she leads the fight for one vote for one legal voter. Stay informed, stay empowered. Let's jump in.
Hi, and welcome to SYNC-O-WICZ, episode 13. My name is Linda SYNC-O-WICZ. I'm the founder and CEO of Fight Voter Fraud, which incidentally, next week's program is going to cover a number of things that Fight Voter Fraud has been working on. So stay tuned for next week's show. But in the meantime, let me give you a rundown of what we're going to be talking about today. The states that we're going to be going over are Louisiana, Nevada, New York, Vermont, Texas. We're going to have some national info, which I will definitely be putting my personal spin on the national stuff that I'm bringing forward. Then we're going to go to vote notes. We're going to have our trivia question, and we're adding a segment called Final Thoughts. So again, we're going to start off with Louisiana. So Louisiana, Secretary of State Landry announces the passage of some voter protection bills. Now I'm quoting her from the source being the Daily Star, which was on June 18, 2025. Quote, "I'm exceedingly grateful to the authors and sponsors of the bills in our voter protection package and the members who supported these pieces of legislation," Landry said. "Thanks to them, 4 instruments from our legislative slate passed overwhelmingly, all with bipartisan support." So the bills that were passed, and again, this is in Louisiana, they actually take election integrity seriously. And like I said, I'm surprised that it was with bipartisan support because we know of so many across the country that they just can't agree on things. So anyway, Louisiana, here are your 4 bills that were passed. HB 206 by Representative Michael Millerine requires legislative approval of election-related consent decrees. HB 351, or Act 80, by Representative Michael Johnson assesses court costs and attorney fees for knowingly attesting to false information in a notice of candidacy. So I'm guessing they didn't have that on the forms before, that if you lie, that you're going to be in trouble. So I'm glad Louisiana has added that one. Then we have SCR 35 by Senator Rick Edmonds, calls for procedural election audit by the Louisiana auditor every 4 years. Again, an excellent thing to do when you're trying to clean the voter rolls and keep everything accurate. Then the contents of SB 109 by Senator Seabaugh and HB 590 by Representative Annie Spell, which bans foreign funding of election contests and ballot measures, were amended into Representative Mark Wright's HB 693. Some of the stuff I'll tell you is absolutely crazy on how all the laws and how everything goes in the different states during the legislative sessions. Every state has something different as far as time-wise, when you have to get the bills in and who they have to be approved by. But one thing is always the same. Towards the end of the session, everybody starts scrambling like they didn't have the months and months and months ahead of time to actually review the bills. So surprising that we actually do get things accomplished within the states. Now, the next state that we're going to talk about, and I know we do frequently talk about it. Last week, we had Matt Meck in here from Nevada. Nevada always has a number of interesting things that are going on. But this one for Nevada is from News 4 on June 17, 2025. Nevada residents charged with voter registration fraud conspiracy in Minnesota. So what this is about It is about two people who are residents of Nevada, and they were formerly from Minnesota. They've been charged with conspiracy to engage in voter registration fraud, according to announcement by acting U.S. Attorney Joseph H. Thompson, and they also worked with the FBI on this. And just to make sure all of you are aware that during federal elections, the election crimes fall under federal law, which is why the acting U.S. attorney is involved in this particular one. It did cover the documents they revealed were from 2021 and 2022. So it encompasses even the off years that they had done this. So Ronnie Williams and Lorraine Lee Combs conspired to create fictitious names and information for voter registration applications. They signed forms certifying their understanding that providing false information is a felony punishable by up to 5 years in prison or up to a $10,000 fine or both. Williams allegedly provided the completed forms to Foundation One, which is an organization that's been registering voters in Minnesota, which then submitted the applications to county offices. Foundation One compensated Williams for the registrations, and he shared the proceeds with Combs. So are organizations in Minnesota that are signing up people to vote, they're allowed to compensate them? I don't know. I certainly don't agree with that. People should not be compensated for doing that. And I just have a hard time sometimes when you have other organizations that are helping people to sign up to vote. It's like they can't do it on their own. Some states even allow you to register online and then you send in your proof. Others, you can't take one day out of 365 days in a year and go to your election official's office, depending upon what state, in order to register to vote. And now people are compensated for it? I don't think that's a good idea. What do you think? All right, so next we are going to go to New York. Sorry. I gotta tell you, when I'm going through all the different news feeds and other stuff that is out there, it sometimes gets a little difficult while I'm reading them because some of them are so slanted one way or another, mostly a particular way. Not that I'm using this particular hand to say which way. Just give us the facts. Honestly, you'd have more people reading your information if you would forget about the rhetoric and just give us the facts. Just the facts, ma'am. All right, so this is for New York. New York, the source is Cityland NYC, and this was from June 16th, 2025. Although this organization appears to be left-leaning, it does have information, nonetheless, that New Yorkers should pay attention to and make up your own minds. If you can pull out the facts and ignore, as I just said before, the rhetoric. Okay. So the NYC Charter Revisions Commission is considering a proposal on the city ballot to open its closed primary system to independent voters. The public hearing in Manhattan is scheduled for Monday, July 7th at Langston Hughes Auditorium at Schomburg Center for Research in Black Culture, and that's at 515 Malcolm X Boulevard. Now, that's in Manhattan. Now, Staten Island already had their hearing on Monday, June 23rd. I'm actually going to give you their website because, as I said, there's a lot of good information in there if you can just weed your way through and just get to the facts. So you can also get the updates on various ongoing litigations. And their website is www.citylandnyc.org. So you can go to them get all kinds of information of what's going on in New York. But remember, it's a little bit leaning. Anyway. All right, so right now we are going to go to a quick break and we'll be right back.
Infamous ballot drop box.
Wanda's been arrested.
Around the world, people are aware of Wanda the ballot stuffer.
When fraud cancels you.
3 other Bridgeport Democrats were charged.
It's outrageous.
Take the freedom of our vote.
You gotta fight.
We're supposed to have quick justice.
Linda SYNC-O-WICZ is the election integrity watchdog in America's corner. Digging into the data to scrub the voter rolls clean, protecting your rights, respecting our Constitution. For years, Linda's mission-driven advocacy has helped preserve the Republic, exposing corruption.
The Chief State's Attorney's Office is not doing their job.
Speaking truth to power. It's pretty simple. One vote for one legal voter. FightVoterFraud.org.
Join the Army.
And welcome back. I'm Linda SYNC-O-WICZ. You're watching the SYNC-O-WICZ program, and we talk about election integrity. And we're giving you information from all across the country because we want people to be educated on everything that's going on out there concerning our votes and our voter registrations, everything. So our next state that we're going to talk about is Vermont, and this is from the VT Digger, June 16th, 2025. I like that. VT Digger is the name of the organization or the company that did the article. And they have a final reading. A sweeping election bill gets new life in the Vermont Senate. So over the last few months, the Vermont legislature has been, quote, playing politics with the election bill. Well, there's a surprise. They're always doing that in all the states while they're doing this. But for Vermont, it first appeared that this particular bill was dead. Then when it was stripped of most of the debated subject matter, H474 passed both Senate and House last Monday. So they stripped it down. Whatever somebody didn't like, they kind of took out, which does happen with a number of bills. But this election bill would require more people to file campaign finance financial disclosure information and prohibit candidates who lose in a primary election from running in the general election under another party or as an independent. It would require local officials to perform an audit the voter checklists in the House and Senate districts that span multiple towns, a direct response to errors that plagued Bennington County Courthouse race last fall. So I guess it's a good thing. I mean, we are seeing a number of states that are looking at the campaign finance bills. I mean, we all know all the stuff we've heard about in Michigan, what's going on with their campaign finance programs, systems that they had. It's definitely an issue. So when they talk about the campaign finance information, they're supposed to be transparent, which means candidates that receive money, we want to know where the money is coming from. And we are able to go and see where the information is coming from. In fact, you can even go to open source and see who has donated to your candidates, both, I think it's mostly on the federal level, but there is information out there. Your state should have it on your local level as well. Because again, we want to make sure we know who is donating money and how much, and that they are following the laws. Because there are very specific amounts that people can and cannot donate, when they can and can donate. They have different reports they have to get in. It's a very strict timeline with the states and with the candidates as they're getting into the elections. So with Vermont. I think that's a great thing. We've talked about a few other states that were working on their campaign finance schedules and information and who should actually supply the information to them. So that's what's going on in Vermont. Now we're going to go to Texas. I love Texas, the great state of Texas. Now, Texas, this is from the Dallas Express on June 17th, 2025. Paxton had announced, that's Attorney General Paxton, in May that there were multiple individuals were indicted in Frio County for allegedly illegal vote harvesting. What surprised me were the positions that these people that did this that were arrested. Those arrested include a county judge, a former elections administrator, Parasol City Council members, plural, a Parasol ISD trustee, that's for their school systems, and a suspected Frio County ballot harvester. Now, ballot harvesting are when people actually get paid to go and solicit votes or applications from people. Connecticut, we have, ballot harvesters. It's illegal, but they still do it. So I'm glad Texas is actually cracking down on this. So the other stuff that's going on with Texas, Governor Abbott has now decided that he is going to have a special session in Texas to go over a number of bills that didn't make it to their deadline. So I believe it's July 21st that they're going to go back in session to go over very specific bills. As I said before, when it gets down to the end, a lot of times they're scrambling to get things through. And there were a number of priority bills, including SB 16, that did not make it through at the time. So we're hoping that that's going to be one of them that has been added. We do know, let's see, for Texas, SB 1470 actually adds a third party to help clean the voter rolls. There's some very specific language in there for that one. So Texas actually has been working very hard on election integrity issues. So I'm hoping this special session will get a number of other bills that also move forward. Now we're going to go to the national info. The Leadership Conference on Civil Rights, it has 240 members, wants the Civil Rights Division of the Department of Justice to have a robust oversight. Now, their letter to the Department of Justice was a few pages long, but again, they could have made it a lot less had they taken out some of the rhetoric that we always hear. They're literally freaking out over, get this, they are upset because the Department of Justice is focusing on pursuing the problem of voting fraud. Oh my God, that's terrible. Somebody's actually cracking down on this, and they're all upset about it, which also includes making sure only Americans, citizens vote in the election, and they're preventing illegal voting, fraud, and other forms of malfeasance. Really? 240 members had to go and write this letter, which could have really been chopped down, and actually wasn't necessary to even write. The fact that our Department of Justice Civil Rights Division is cracking down on vote fraud, they're cracking down on illegals voting in the elections. They are serving notice to multiple states who have not been following federal law. And this organization is all upset about it. personally. I think that's crazy. This is what we voted for. We voted for our Department of Justice to clean everything up. Everybody sees what's going on around the world right now. And I am so happy that we live in the United States of America, where you have an opportunity to vote. You can express your personal opinion, and we want it to count. And right now, there are a lot of states that are not following the NVRA, which is the National Voter Registration Act of 1993, which again, as a reminder, is to make sure that only U.S. citizens are voting, or people who are eligible, which is 18 or older. We do know some states do have a law that you can pre-register 16, 17-year-olds. I don't necessarily agree with that, but then again, I'm not consulted on these matters. And just making sure that the voter rolls are clean. And it also allowed the motor vehicle, which is also called the motor voter law, to register people to vote. But it also needs to ensure that those being registered are accurate and that the voter rolls are cleaned, and you take off the people who have died, moved, the ghost voters. Those are the ones that have never existed, but they seem to wind up on our voter rolls across the country. So the Department of Justice is cracking down, the Civil Liberties Division, on the states that are not doing their jobs. This is what we want them to do. We only, again, want U.S. citizens to be voting in our elections, and voting only once, not multiple times. And yes, we know the people who have been voting multiple times, and don't think you're going to get away with it. If you've done it in the last 7 years, because there's a statute of limitations, I suspect you might want to be a little bit worried if you voted in multiple states or multiple times during an election, whether it's absentee or in person. Did you ever read the fine print on an absentee ballot application, and also on the absentee ballots that you send in? There's fine print at the bottom on what you are attesting to. Some states go a little further, that you actually have to have someone witnessing that you are the one filling it out. I actually think that's a great idea, but it does take it one step further to ensure election integrity. Right now, we just want any of you who are voting multiple times or registered in multiple states, get your names off the voter rolls if you don't live there anymore. Because you have property in, say, Florida and also in Texas, does not allow you to be able to do this. So anyway, that's just me. I digress. So you can go to the website that they have. Actually, I would go to the Civil Rights Enforcement Resources from 6/17/2025 for the Leadership Conference of Civil and Human Rights, to also see the list of the members. And like I said, I was like really surprised at the number that I saw on here. Just to give you a quick idea, since I have it in front of me, as far as the members themselves, I mean, it is pages and pages long for the 240. You've got the AFL-CIO. Anybody surprised? American Association of University Women. You have Fair Election Center, Family Equality, Juvenile Law Center. Oh, here's one. League of Conservative Voters. I thought it was going to be League of Women Voters. Oh, there they are. League of Women Voters. They're also on here. So anyway, there's the list. So you can go to their website, take a look at it. There is some information that I believe is actually good information. But the fact that they had to write a letter, a whining letter, upset that the Department of Justice is actually looking into going after and sending letters already to different states that are not complying with the NVRA, the National Voter Registration Act, and HAVA, which is the Help America Vote Act. Those are both federal laws that all states have to comply with. The Department of Justice is not the same Department of Justice that we've had for the last 4 years, or I would even say for the last 20 years. They are very focused, and Trump has given them a directive on what they need to do. Basically, we need to fix our elections. So that's what they're busy doing. First thing is when people violate the law, who's in charge in your state of the elections? Ultimately, it's your Secretary of State, except in Alaska, Hawaii, and Utah. They don't have a Secretary of State. They use the Lieutenant Governor. And actually in Hawaii, the Lieutenant Governor is not the one running it. They have an election official that had been put in place to run the elections in Hawaii. And boy, do they have problems. We'll be talking about that in coming episodes as far as what's going on in Hawaii. So our vote notes. Our vote notes is we have an article by Iris Stone. She's in Nevada, and she gives updates on everything that went on pretty much in the legislative session concerning the elections, election integrity, and what they were pushing through. So as we always do, our vote notes, you'll have a link on our website and within the program that you can connect to, and you can read everything that Iris Stone has to say about what went on during Nevada's most recent legislative session. So I think it is excellent information. And even if you're not in Nevada, you still might want to check it out. You should always be looking at other states. Give ideas to your legislators as well on what bills you think should be passed. So that's our vote notes. And a new segment that we've added to our program is called Final Thoughts. Not that I don't interject my opinion on a number of things as we're going through everything with the states. But again, as most states are wrapping up their legislative sessions, and I'll tell you, I was surprised that, like Texas, they're only in session every other year, and they're in session for 6 months. So they need to get as many bills through as possible. And from what I gather, it's like 87% of the bills proposed in Texas never make it through. That's with lobbyists and legislators and how they do everything. But their session had ended. And as I said earlier, Governor Abbott has decided on July 21st, they're going to go back in session for very specific issues. So you look at your state. Do you think your state is complying with federal laws? It's probably doubtful because federal laws are very specific. Again, we talk about the HAVA, Help America Vote Act, and the NVRA, 1993. It went into effect, I believe, January 1st of 1995. Which I believe was an excellent idea to make sure that everyone is being compliant. But the one thing that hasn't been followed by a number of states is following the federal law. Granted, you can do certain things during off years when it is not a federal election, but you'd think you'd want your state to have the highest standards of election integrity. Quite honestly, Connecticut doesn't. Everyone knows I'm from Connecticut. We have been fighting this fight in Connecticut for a number of years. But there's always a way to take action, which next week on the program we'll be telling you about the actions we've taken. Because sometimes we think outside of the box. You have to. Your elected officials are not doing their jobs. And everybody's whining and complaining that they don't have time to do their jobs. But it's a job that is supposed to ensure that your vote counts. My vote counts. And only counts once, not multiple times. So there's a number of things that need to be cleaned up. And as we talked earlier, the Department of Justice, the Civil Liberties Division, has changed their focus to ensure that each state is following the law. Nobody has complained about the laws themselves, the federal laws. Okay, they're on the books, motor vehicle, you can register to vote and all this other stuff. But once you do that, you have to make sure that it's compliant with federal law. Now, granted, there are 6 states out there that are not covered by the NVRA, and I'm trying to think of them off the top of my head. I know that Idaho is one of them, Wyoming, Wisconsin. I think Michigan also might. No, Michigan is not. Minnesota is one of them. One of the Dakotas, and I apologize for not knowing them off the top of my head. But that's because when the law went into effect, they already had some other provisions in place. But everybody has to follow HAVA, the Help America Vote Act. So what can you do? What can you do as a citizen, whether it's in a small town or a big city? Everybody could do something. Your neighbor next to you. Did they move? Did they pass away? Somebody else there? Check your voter registrations in your town and see if they're still on the list. If they're still on the list, notify your election officials. There is a way to remove people off the list. Sometimes you'll hear them say, oh, no, we can't do that. Well, find out what their specifics are. Sometimes election officials just don't want to be bothered. Other times you have election officials that are incredible, that want to do their job, but they're impeded from one thing or another and not being able to completely comply with state and federal laws. We got to change that. We got to make sure that our votes count. No more of this other stuff of paying people to go out and get votes, signing up last minute, not showing ID. We need to know who everyone is. That's our right. That's our right as citizens, that we only have people that live in our community who are eligible to vote, that vote on our local issues. Because it's not just the national stuff that we need to worry about. Who's in charge of your city? Do you have a town selectman? Do you have a mayor? Do you have a town manager? Do you have, multiple people that run the town? You want to make sure that your voice is heard. It goes all the way down to the local levels. Your planning and zoning, your board of education. And in case some of you aren't aware, yes, I actually spent 4 years on the Board of Education in the city of Middletown, Connecticut. What a nightmare. I'm one of the ones that ruffles feathers. Boy, did I ruffle feathers. Just trying to make the city of Middletown back between 2013 and 2017 follow the law, follow city ordinances. It was crazy. Absolutely crazy. But I made sure, even when I was the only one speaking up, that I spoke up. Granted, a number of people, again, did not like it. And on the video with one particular person, he didn't lay a hand on me. It was something else, because I was not supposed to bring up in the city of Middletown that contracts had not gone out to bid in 30-something years. Now they do. So it was worth it. But anyway, I digressed on that, as I was talking about that every single seat matters within your town, within your community, on how you want your town, city, or community to move forward on even some of your very basic issues. So we all want to make sure that only people in our communities that are supposed to be able to vote are actually voting. So that was a little bit of my final thoughts. What I'm going to throw in there now is our trivia question. Has there ever been a president who was not elected to office? And the answer is yes. Gerald Ford is the only person who served as president and vice president without being elected to either office. So that's the answer to our trivia question. So I want to thank all of you who have been watching our program. Again, I'd like to encourage everyone to go to OBBM Network TV, sign up and share. It's free. We want to be able to educate as many people as possible by watching our program, where election integrity is what we're all about. So thank you again for watching and listening. I'm Linda SYNC-O-WICZ, and I'll see you next week.